lawama, jambo ambalo wamekuja kulizoea. Seneta wa Kisii Richard Onyonka anatupa taswira ya mwanasiasa na yale anayopitia maishani katika makala yetu ya Mwanaume Ni, naye Cecilia Lubanga.
Tulipigwa mwaka 2007, hakuna mtu ameapologize kuwa tulipigwa.
Mimi Richard Onyonka.
We will work with you. Thank you, sir, and come again. Thank you.
Truth is, I don't have time for my people.
Kwa jina anaitwa Richard Onyonka. Wengi wasilolijua ni ametoka katika familia ya wanasiasa. Babake Zakari Onyonka akiwa mmoja wa wale waliohudumu katika serikali ya Rais Jomo Kenyatta na Rais Daniel Arap Moi. Na leo Richard Onyonka ndiye seneta wa kaunti ya Kisii.
A member of parliament and a cabinet minister in the Kenyatta government and the Moi government for about 29 years. In the process then, that is really how I started to pick myself around politics.
Kujitosa kwake katika ulingo wa siasa si jambo alilolipa kipaumbele. Mwaka wa 1982, akiwa mwanafunzi katika chuo kikuu cha Nairobi, Onyonka alikamatwa na kutiwa mbaroni kwa miaka 2, akiwa mshukiwa wa wale walioongoza jaribio la mapinduzi ya serikali ya Rais Moi.
We were arrested and then went through the whole due process, and some of us got jailed, some people died, and in fact that was the first time I met Raila, because we were both in the same cell, even though he was same block in the cells and he was in a different place, and that's how we began to. Then after University of Nairobi, I headed to the US, where I went and did my thing, and came back to Kenya in 1994. And then 1996, my father died, and according to the Kisii tradition, I had to run because I was the eldest son, but technically I was actually not meant to win, because in Kisii culture you don't win after your father dies. They say you let him sleep.
Ukasema uongozi umekuwa kitu chache kusini.
After that, the Prime Minister then appointed me as an Assistant Minister for Foreign Affairs, which was a shock, a surprise, really surprised. I'd known nothing about foreign affairs. I didn't even understand. I didn't even care. They picked me and went through Kenya School of Government. That is when they taught me how to make my speeches. That is how they taught me how to dress. They teach you how to hold the spoons, and they tell you why you have a fork on the left and the right, and what happens when there's a team of people sitting on a round table and you're having a dinner, how to toss, which I didn't know. Then I think it was one of the best experiences I could have. And then obviously the 5-year term ended. Then again I went and ran, and this time I got elected on ODM. Came back as a member of parliament and did my second 5 years, and then after that did another 5 years under Ford Kenya because at that time again I was having issues with ODM. And finally I'm here now as the senator of Kisii County, having been elected again on the ODM ticket.
Kwa sasa amehudumu kwenye serikali 3, akisimulia safari yake kama kiongozi.
The most important thing that happened to me is that by the time I became a member of parliament, that is when CDF was actually being implemented. And I used to do a lot of public participatory meetings, and I would ask the public, what is it that you want in this area? I managed to go through my constituency. Initially it was Kituru Chache as a whole, then later it was split into 2. And we had north and south. Then I had to go and talk to people. You engage them, you consult them, which projects do they want, how do they want the money to be spent. And I think largely over the period of time that I was a member of parliament, because CDF in my constituency was doing extremely well, I think I'm very proud of that record, because at one time I was the best in Nyanza. I was about number 3 or 4 in Kenya. By the time I left my secondary schools, I think I have about 2 that don't have school buses, that don't have laboratories. My schools changed. We had completely altered, because when I moved in, when I became an MP, I found classrooms didn't have windows, they didn't have toilets, the floors were mud floors. So there was so much that we had to do. And what was shocking to me is that when the public realizes that you're doing certain things for them, they are more sympathetic and they're willing to listen to you. Number 3, the last thing I discovered is that when you're in politics and you make a mistake, just own up. The Speaker of the National Assembly to figure it out and come up with an audit so that we can follow up on such issues. I was able to manage to engage the churches. I would participate in fundraising for churches. I would participate in many activities, talking to the teaching fraternity, supporting the teachers where it was necessary. And of course, you know, at the local level, you have to engage yourself with funerals. I think for the 15 years that I had practically worked as a member of parliament, and the other 5 years that I was working trying to get elected, I don't think there was a single funeral in my place that I didn't either attend or send money. So the public then began to look at me differently from how they used to look at me before, and that's why I think they carried me all along until now.
Onyonka anasema kuwa kwa mwanasiasa kufika kileleni inahitajika bidii, lakini familia ndizo muhimu zaidi, kwani uhusiano wake na familia huathirika.
Truth is, I don't have time for my people. The only thing is that because I learned this from my father before, because I can remember by the time when I was a bit older, let me say I'm about 25, 30. And at that time, that's when my father was really engaged in his politics and the stuff they were doing. I could say I saw him most probably twice a year. But we would talk. That time it was the landline, so I would get the landline and call him in the evening. I would know he's at home my father was always at home from 6 in the evening. So by 7:30 after news, I would always call and say, "Boss, how are you?" Then he would rant at me whatever I did wrong, and because we didn't have mobile numbers. It is not easy, and for the members of parliament and many of my friends that there's a possibility we are headed for Mombasa on Sunday. And yet I was planning to go to Kisii. All right, so I'm looking at between tomorrow, which is Friday, that I'm supposed to go and attend a funeral in Kisii, and then figure out how to make a turnaround from Kisii, land in Nairobi on Saturday, so that then I can take a flight, or I could take a flight from Kisumu to Mombasa on Sunday, attend the meetings from Monday morning, finish by Tuesday. I'm supposed to be back here on Wednesday because we are having meetings on the Shakahola Mada thing. Then finish with that meeting on Wednesday. On Thursday or Friday, there's a likelihood I am then again traveling to some other place. You notice as I'm explaining this to you, I'm not discussing anywhere where the children come in and where the madam comes in or anything. There's nothing like that. So the truth and the reality is that I've been forced to explain to them that I'm actually unavailable. But there are times when we catch up. There are times when, for example, there will be an Easter, you can always call everybody around and say, "You guys, where are we going?" Because I live in Kitale, that's where I grew up. Or I'll say, "Okay, we are going to be in Kisii," or they say, "No, we want to stay in Nairobi and do ABCD." So I'm able to then mix, but it never lasts 2 days. Now, how do you even check on your kids' character development in 2 days? You can't. I mean, these are things that we go through every day.
Akiwa amehudumu kwa miaka 25 katika ulingo wa siasa, mwanasiasa huyu tajika ambaye safari yake debeni ilianza mwaka 2007 ana mawili matatu ya kuwarai vijana ambao wana nia ya kujitosa katika ulingo wa siasa.
Must not fear the fact that you are expected in Kenya today to become a politician because you have money. You don't have to become a politician, or people don't have to love you by making a fool of yourself. You can actually start articulating and discussing public issues and mentioning the issues that matter to you. And I believe that if you are young and you want to get into politics and you are deep enough about it, can you please be somebody who people can identify, who stands for something? If you want to be a leader and you convinced that that is what you want to do, please know your stuff. Get to know what it is. I mean, you will have a guy, there's somebody, you are going to have people who run for members of the county assembly. But you ask him, what is the PFM Act? He doesn't know. You ask him, what are the responsibilities of the county assembly? He doesn't know. Him, what he's looking at is, at one time, there was misinformation that a member of the county assembly earns 500,000 shillings a month. Of course, it's not true. So many guys will pick their money and pump it into wanting to become an MCA or wanting to become a member of parliament, because he knows as a member of parliament there is CDF and money for roads, and therefore you have 150 million, and therefore you automatically feel that you're going to be wealthy and everything. It doesn't work like that. You must stand up for something, and you must be in a position to serve your people with dignity. And at least for me, the critical, the most important personal engagement I have about my politics is that after I don't become a politician anymore, any longer, what are my people? What does the public think of me? That is more substantive to me than if the people who I work for and the Kenyan public thinks that after I've been in politics, I've left the office being the richest person in the country. And that is purely because I was a politician. Do I want to be rich? Yes. Do I need so much money? No. Do I need 20 cars? No. Do I need 15 houses? No. Do I need 10,000 or 1,000 or 500 acres of land? No.
Cecilia Lubanga, Runinga ya Look Up.